When Germany invaded the Soviet Union, one of the strategic assumptions of the Army High Command was that the terrain and weather would have no significant impact on the conduct of the campaign. Military planners of Operation Barbarossa regarded the Soviet Union as virtually flat land that was ideal for rapid tank operations, but ignored its numerous rivers, dense forests, immense distances, and poor road networks. In the Baltic states, the formation of Army Group North fought for control of river crossings that would allow them to reach Leningrad, their primary objective. Three days before the outbreak of the war, General Kuznetsov, commander of the Northwestern Front, was alarmed by the obvious German military buildup along the Lithuanian border and attempted to improve the readiness of his command, even without specific instructions from Moscow. Under the guise of an exercise, Kuznetsov decided to move the 12th Mechanized Corps forward from Riga to support the rifle divisions of the 8th Army. He also ordered the 8th Army to lay minefields along the border and prepare bridges for demolition. As Army Group North began crossing the Lithuanian border, the 4th Panzer Group advanced towards the city of Tarogan, with the 1st Panzer Division on the left and the 6th Panzer Division on the right. The 1st Panzer Division attacked directly into Tarogan. Thanks to Kuznetsov's last-minute alerts, many tanks were slowed down by mines and anti-tank fire. The 1st Panzer Division lost the better part of a day clearing the city, while most of the defenders succeeded in escaping to the northeast. The 6th Panzer Division moved past the east side of the city and advanced deeper into enemy territory, having no knowledge of the concentration of tanks that Kuznetsov intended to use against enemy armored spearheads. The plan to use a Panzer Division to seize a city close to the border was ill-conceived, and ultimately limited the 41st Panzer Corps to a 30-kilometer penetration on the first day, which merely pushed the enemy back rather than encircling them. Meanwhile, the 56th Panzer Corps, commanded by the famous General Erich von Manstein, avoided Soviet resistance centers by advancing cross-country with the 8th Panzer Division, way out in front, followed at some distance by the 3rd Motorized Division. Consequently, Manstein's lead division advanced 70 kilometers on the first day and had no significant contact with Soviet forces. Once Kuznetsov was sure that the Germans were across the border in force, he decided to counterattack with the 12th Mechanized Corps on the German left flank. The 3rd Mechanized Corps would attack the German right flank with the 2nd Tank Division. The concept of an armored double pincer attack was a good plan, but not feasible under current conditions. The hastily conducted move of the 12th Mechanized Corps 3 days prior consumed most of the unit's on-hand fuel and left the Corps fuel depot 190 kilometers to the rear. Since the 12th Mechanized Corps had less than half its authorized number of trucks, it would take multiple convoys back to Riga to refuel all tanks on the front line. Furthermore, the 10th Rifle Corps requested assistance from the 23rd Tank Division, which dispersed the counterstroke by the 12th Mechanized Corps. This indicated the divide within the Red Army between those who viewed mechanized forces as best used en masse as a shock force, and those who wanted it dispersed for infantry support. When the 28th Tank Division moved to attack at dawn on June 23rd, the Luftwaffe detected the columns of Soviet armor and attacked, knocking out 44 tanks and a large number of wheeled transports. Eventually, the division attacked with 40 T-26 and BT-7 light tanks. The tanks ran straight into the anti-tank guns of the 21st Infantry Division and inflicted some damage but retreated after 3 hours of fighting. On the German right flank, the 6th Panzer Division brushed aside the 48th Rifle Division, which was armed only with training ammunition, as a part of Kuznetsov's mobilization exercise. After capturing Raseiniai, the 6th Panzer Division secured 2 bridgeheads over the Dubaisa River and then paused to refuel and rearm. The 2nd Tank Division took advantage of the pause and approached during the night in order to strike on the next day. The division was equipped with 6 different tank types, including 50 T-34 medium tanks and 51 KV heavy tanks, which the Germans were about to encounter here for the first time. Thus, the Germans were doubly shocked on the morning of June 24th when not only were they attacked by a large Soviet armored group, but also by 3 types of tanks that they did not even know existed. The 2nd Tank Division attacked in waves, with the BT and T-26 types out in front, followed by the T-34s, and then by the KV heavy tanks. Although shocked by the appearance of the new Soviet tanks, the German tank hunters followed doctrine and did not engage with their anti-tank guns until the enemy was within 200 meters. When the Germans opened fire, the armor-piercing rounds simply bounced off, and then the Soviet tanks closed in and destroyed the guns by driving over them. The 6th Panzer Division counterattacked with Panzer 35Ts and a handful of Panzer IVs, but suffered significant losses, and they requested assistance from the 1st Panzer Division. Inexplicably, the Luftwaffe was absent during the Battle of Raseiniai. The arrival of Stukas might have tipped the balance, but they were nowhere in sight. The 2nd Tank Division lost the initiative as fuel and ammunition were exhausted. In addition, most of the T-26 and BT-7 light tanks, as well as the motorized infantry, were lost early in the battle, leaving the remaining KV and T-34 tanks unsupported. Eventually, the anti-aircraft batteries of the 6th Panzer Division succeeded in destroying several tanks using their powerful 88mm guns. By nightfall, the Soviets were surrounded, and the 6th Panzer Division spent the next 2 days reducing the trapped 2nd Tank Division. The light tanks of the 23rd and 28th Tank Divisions were rapidly picked off by German tank hunters. After 2 days of combat, the 12th Mechanized Corps exhausted its supplies and was reduced to about 20% of its armor. While the 6th Panzer Division was still fighting in Raseiniai, the 8th Panzer Division seized both rail and road bridges over the Dvina River intact. Manstein had accomplished his intermediate objective in just 4 days, but he was in no position to exploit it. His bold dash immobilized the 8th Panzer Division for lack of fuel and caused 24 tanks to fall out due to mechanical defects. Recognizing that his forces were too weak to hold Lithuania, Kuznetsov ordered the remnants of the 8th Army to withdraw north of the Dvina River to form a new defensive line together with the rifle divisions of the 27th Army. The border battles of the Northwestern Front were a costly disaster, both in lives and equipment. But in these few days of devastation and retreat, there is a story of a lone KV-1 tank that held back elements of the 6th Panzer Division for a full day. When the 2nd Tank Division attacked to the east of Raseiniai, the KV-1 suddenly appeared on the supply road from Raseiniai to the Dubysa. Tales from locals recall that the tank had driven up to this location the night before, as the division assembled to attack at dawn. The KV-1 was spotted when it opened fire and destroyed a convoy bringing fuel and ammunition to the front line. The Germans tried to destroy it with 4 PaK-38 guns. None of the rounds penetrated the tank, and the battery was soon destroyed by the KV-1. The next attempt to take it down was with a 105mm howitzer and an 88mm flak gun. While the howitzer was unable to hit the tank at a safe distance, the 88mm gun was knocked out by the Soviet crew before it could manage to score a hit. During the night, a squad of engineers approached the tank to destroy it with satchel charges, but failed despite possibly damaging the vehicle's tracks. Early on the morning of June 25th, the Germans distracted the KV-1 with light tanks, while another 88mm gun fired at the tank from its rear. Of the several shots fired, only 2 managed to penetrate the tank. When a squad of German infantrymen approached to inspect the seemingly knocked-out tank, the turret began to turn again. As the soldiers fled, one of them threw a grenade into the hole in the armor, which finally killed the crew. The early encounters with the new Soviet tanks made the German Army High Command realize that they overestimated the capabilities of their panzer divisions and ordered the development of new, heavier types of tanks. In the short term, the Germans began to equip their Panzer III and Panzer IV tanks with long-barreled weapons to increase muzzle velocities. While these changes significantly raised their anti-tank capabilities in 1942, the long-term plan to counter the T-34 and KV types was based upon finishing the development of the Tiger tank. In its final design, the Tiger was armed with the lethal 88mm gun that had already proven its effectiveness on the Eastern Front.